and we don't accept that it is a self-defense. It is a raging war that is killing civilians, destroying their homes, their hospitals, their schools, their mosques, and their churches. It cannot be justified under any pretext, and it will not bring Israel security. It will not bring the region peace. The killing must stop, and also Israel immune from committing war crimes must stop. And please allow me now to switch to English and speak English.
All that has been done to bring about just peace to the region. With every missile unleashed on Gaza, with every killing of a Palestinian child, and Israel has killed in this war more children than all global conflicts did since 2019. The whole region is sinking in a sea of hatred that will define generations to come. That is already starting to manifest itself in expressions and acts of hatred in the region, and to be honest, in the deplorable acts and expressions of Islamophobia and anti-Semitism. And that's something that we all stand against unequivocally, on principle, and in accordance with our human values. This is not a religious war. It's not a war between Muslims and Jews. This is defined in its context, and all our values, Muslim, Christian, Jewish, all other human values dictate that we work for peace and we stand for peace matters, and we do not allow for the very dangerous dehumanization that we see. Rage cannot and should not be allowed to destroy the lives of millions of people. We understand there is pain. Nobody in their right mind will belittle the pain that was felt by Israelis on October 7th, and that's being felt by Palestinians. All of us. It doesn't matter who we are, Arab, Muslims, Christian, Jews, human being. That pain cannot be belittled, but again, we cannot allow rage to determine where we go forward. We condemn the killing of all civilians. We condemn the killing of Palestinian civilians. We condemn the killing of Israeli civilians on October 7th and before and after, regardless of nationality, as I said. We're extremely worried on this situation on the West Bank. Again, killing and violation of international law cannot continue there. Settlers should not be allowed to rampage Palestinian communities and kill innocents in the West Bank. Israeli soldiers who brought despicable humiliation to Palestinians after illegally detaining them should be held accountable. Palestinians and Israelis deserve to live in peace, with dignity, with security, and freedom from occupation and freedom from fear. Only a living side by side, a secure Israel will bring security to all. The priority now is ending this war, to saving innocent lives, to preventing further destruction, to restoring hope, and to stopping the very dangerous dehumanization. All lives matter to all of us. And Mr. Secretary, dear Tony, the U.S. has a leading role to play in these efforts. And on it, and all of us hold the very heavy responsibility of ending this catastrophe, achieving the just peace that is the right of every Palestinian, every Israeli mother, child, father, and that will ensure that none of them or any other in the region will ever have to live the horrors that this vicious cycle of violence and war is bringing. We will continue to work with you and with all our partners to fulfill this responsibility, to make sure that our common human values prevail, international law prevails, and peace for all prevails. Thank you so much. I now
Prime Minister Antony, Foreign Minister Safadi, and Secretary General Sameh. We appreciate the effort Jordan and Egypt, partner along with their dedication to a more stable, to a more peaceful Middle East. We come together here today, sharing the same fundamental objective: end this conflict in a way that ensures lasting peace and security in the region. We may have different views and positions, but certain necessary steps to that end. But today we reaffirm our individual commitments to continue to work toward that end and share. Throughout this conflict, countries across the Middle East and beyond have played an essential role in preventing its spread. Today, we all agreed on the importance of using our respective influence and capability to deter any state or non-state action involving another front in this conflict or taking other stabilizing action. All of us. Our joint efforts have also been critical in increasing the flow of humanitarian assistance to Gaza. I'm particularly grateful to Egypt for its significant effort to facilitate a mechanism with Israel and with the United Nations to do just that. Each day, more than 100 trucks are moving to Rafah, up from 0 just a little over a week ago. But that is not nearly enough. Today, we spoke about ways to accelerate and expand the sustained delivery of aid. This morning, I had an opportunity to meet with Commissioner General Lazzarini of UNRWA, and I spoke with UNRWA staff that is located in Gaza. I heard firsthand about the extraordinary life-saving work that they're doing in Gaza in the face of extremely difficult conditions, and how we can expedite efforts to get assistance to them so that they can get it to the Palestinian people. We're also working to continue the progress we've made in getting our citizens, other foreign nationals, critically wounded people out of Gaza. But even as we welcome their safe exit, we remain resolutely committed and focused on securing the release of hostages held by Hamas. I had the opportunity to discuss this, the status of our ongoing efforts with Prime Minister Antony this morning. We all spoke today about the clear need to protect Palestinian civilians. The United States supports Israel's right to defense against Hamas, a terrorist organization that attacked it brutally and that cares not a whit about the Palestinian people or their future. This is the same right that each of our countries has. But as Israel conducts its campaign, how it does it matters. Israel must take every possible measure to prevent civilian casualties. In my meetings with Israeli officials yesterday, I conveyed additional steps that they can and should take to do just that. Protecting civilians will help prevent Hamas from further exploiting the situation. But most important, it's simply the right and moral thing to do. When I see a Palestinian boy or girl pulled from the wreckage of a building, it hits me in the gut, just as it hits everyone in the gut. And I see my own children in their faces. And as human beings, how can any of us not feel the same way? This morning I heard from the UNRWA staff in Gaza, many of whom are displaced themselves, about the immense human toll that this conflict has taken. For UNRWA itself, they've lost 77 of their colleagues who are there simply trying to provide people with their basic needs. Trauma being under constant bombardment and in constant danger. The inability to assure their own children that nothing will happen to them. What we have to do, more than anything else, all of us, everyone concerned, is to prevent the dehumanization of each other. If we don't do that, then we do exactly Hamas's work for it. So we have to look out for each other. We have to look out for every innocent life. Now, the United States believes that all of these efforts will be facilitated by humanitarian pauses. We believe pauses can be a critical mechanism for protecting civilians, for getting aid in, for getting foreign nationals out, while still enabling Israel to achieve its objective, to defeat Hamas. Yesterday I spoke in depth with Israeli leaders about how, when, where such arrangements can be implemented, and what needs to be done to make it possible. Today, we will partly discuss many of the same questions. We're all deeply concerned about escalating extremist violence against Palestinian civilians in the West Bank. This has been a serious problem that has only worsened since the conflict. I updated ministers today on my discussion with the Israeli government yesterday, where I underscored that incitement of extremist violence must be stopped, and perpetrators must be held accountable. As we work together to address each of these immediate challenges, we also have to concurrently work to build and secure lasting peace. For that to happen, we have to create the conditions to ensure that we do not find ourselves in the same place just weeks or months from now. We had substantial discussions today about our shared interest in creating the foundation for durable security for enduring peace. The United States continues to believe that the sole viable path is a two-state solution, with Israelis and Palestinians each exercising their legitimate right to live in a state of their own, with equal measures of security, freedom, opportunity, and dignity. We discussed some of the meaningful and practical steps that we might take to help advance that process and get us there. The United States and our partners will have different views on how best to advance with the steps. But we all recognize that we cannot go back to the status quo. We all understand that we not only have an interest, but a responsibility to do everything we can to chart a better path forward together. Now, none of us are under the illusion that this will be easy, particularly partners of region, Jordan, who have for decades worked to facilitate a real peace. But it's precisely now the stakes are highest, even when the outlook is in the darkness, have to intensify in order to make this work.
Thank you so much. Appreciate time.
My brother Ayman, my friend Tony, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to thank His Excellency Mr. Ayman Safadi, the Minister of Foreign Affairs and External Affairs. Ladies and gentlemen, our meeting is to discuss the developments of the crisis in Gaza and give room for the Arab countries involved to express their positions toward this crisis. I was keen through this meeting to explain the vision or the position of Egypt that our Arab brothers, and I stressed that we need to take time into consideration and look at the development. The unfortunate killing events in Gaza cannot be justified. We would not accept to go into an argument or accept the justification of these practices as considered against the or right to self-defense. The collective punishment, Israel targeting innocent civilians and facilities, medical facilities, paramedics, in addition to trying to force immigration for Palestinians to leave their lands. This cannot be a legitimate self-defense at all. Egypt is exerting its all efforts to guarantee that delivering aids to the Gaza Strips and help treating the civilians wounded, and we will continue our efforts in spite of all the obstacles we are facing. In this regard, I would like to ask or for an immediate and intensive ceasefire in Gaza without any condition, and that Israel would stop what its violations of the international law and the laws of war. And we need to double our work to deliver humanitarian aid as soon as possible with quantities that would meet the needs of the Palestinians, and with open space to talk later on how to come out of this crisis before it gets broader and the conflict would inflict all the peoples of the region and go through a dark tunnel. I also reiterated that we should not deal with this crisis of international peace and security in a double standard way. While some are condemning targeting civilians and describing this as a gross violations of humanitarian law, and to adhere to the demands of ceasefire, while we find that they are opposed the same principles for the same people when things are related to the Palestinian cause, as if the Arab blood is lesser than the bloods of other people, although that the numbers of people who were killed from civilians in Gaza over the last few weeks, including working in relief and journalists, cannot be justified anyway. And in this regard, we are still asking for an immediate ceasefire, and that Israel would stop hindering the delivery of humanitarian aid. And we also demand an international investigation for these violations of the international law in this war. And finally, what we are witnessing of an escalation and a human tragedy and suffering of civilians as a result of not addressing the deep root of the problem and to address the rights of the Palestinian rights. I reject any attempts to liquidate like the Palestinian cause, and I ask that we need to work as soon as possible to revive the peace process based on the two-state solution and end the Israeli occupation and establish a Palestinian state based on the lines of the 4th of July 19th, and its capital is Jerusalem.
شكرا سامح. أنا متأكد أننا
نبدأ بأستاذ خالد العيسوي وخالد الشرق الأوسط.
My question to Mr. Sameh Shoukry, perhaps today's meeting was at a very important time and attended by the ministries of foreign affairs of important countries that are very influenced in the Palestinian cause. Do you feel that the American administration is able to stop the aggressions against civilians in the Gaza Strip, or did the American side during this meeting has offered any roadmap or any map to resume the peace process or to push or end the current crisis? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think it's inappropriate for me to talk about the U.S. position in the presence of the U.S. Secretary of State. I believe we had a very comprehensive and transparent conversation, and with countries that share the desire to work effectively to contain this crisis and to put down the foundations and solutions that would spare the region from these conflicts, that allows us also to talk about and deal with all issues using the same measures. and to protect civilians and to ensure the flow of humanitarian assistance, and also to deal with the root causes of the crisis, which is the failure to implement decades later the agreement to establish a two-state solution, given that this would put an end to the conflict and end the enmity between the two parties, and would mitigate all the threats related to that. We always look forward to work closely with the U.S. We have a strategic relationship with the U.S., and we appreciate the capabilities available to the U.S. There was interest, and very clear interest, that we reached, and we will work in the future to translate these ideas and visions into a reality on the ground to contain this severe crisis and humanitarian crisis. All efforts should come together and to work positively and end this conflict, not just even end this crisis, but also the root causes of the conflict.
Simon Lewis, Reuters.
Simon Lewis.
Question, but I appreciate an answer from all of you if possible. To the Egyptian and Jordanian minister specifically, are you engaging in talks about the future of Gaza without Hamas, and what role you can play in that future? And Secretary Blinken, how do you respond to the calls from your allies here for a ceasefire? And are you hearing, are you finding receptive ears for your calls to talk about Gaza after?
Thanks for the question. It's our view that the ceasefire now will simply be Hamas in place, able to regroup and repeat what it did on October 7th. You don't have to take my word for it. Just 2 days ago, senior Hamas officials said that it was their intent to do October 7th again and again and again. No nation, none of us, except no one would find it. So it is important to reaffirm Israel's right to defend itself, and its obligation to do so, and take necessary steps so that October 7th can never happen again. But it's also very important the way Israel does it. And that's what we talked with the Israeli government about, with taking every possible measure to protect human life, prevent civilian casualties, as well as to ensure that those who are in need have the assistance that they need. To that end, I think we all share a deep concern about the plight of civilians in Gaza and the most essential to get by. We work very hard to ensure that that assistance is welcome. But it's also one of the reasons why humanitarian law is so important. To make sure that we maximize the assistance possible, that we can make sure that people move about safely, they get to places where they're safe, and that, again, make sure that not only is safe, but those who are responsible for getting the right structures and people to make sure that they can benefit from it. So we're focused on this, and we'll continue to work with you together with our partners to make sure that that assistance.
Thank you.
Well, as relates to the issue of ceasefire, it is our position that the ceasefire is possible in a very possible this conflict. We believe that healing of the various components of this crisis should be done well in specific, special characteristics like that. As for the issue of the future of Gaza, if that this is premature at this time, we have to concentrate on the results at hand, holding the cessation of hostilities, addressing the humanitarian needs of the people of Gaza, addressing the issues of displacement, provision of safety for the civilians, and addressing the overall context of the conflict. I believe that at this stage, those are the issues that we concentrate on.
Thank you, sir. We're focused right now on stopping this war, stopping the destruction it's causing, stopping the killing that it's causing. What happens next? How can we even entertain what will happen in Gaza when we do not know what's done in Gaza when we left this response? Are we going to be talking about a wasteland? Are we going to be talking about a whole population reduced to refugees? Simply, we do not have all the variables to even start thinking about it. I think we need to focus now on stopping this war, so at least we have we start even to begin to imagine the kind of miserable reality that will exist there. And after that, let me just be very, very clear. Gaza alone is just not about it. We've been through security treatment of the conflict before. Where did it lead us? The only way going forward to achieve what we all want, which is a just and lasting peace that will protect the rights of all, is to look at the comprehensive conflict, look about bringing the two-state solution back and realize it as soon as possible, convincing the Palestinians that they have a future, and again, creating conditions different from the miserable conditions of despair and anger and hatred and occupation in which this vicious cycle of violence. So I think we need to get our priorities straight. Right now we have to make sure the war stops. Right now we have to make sure that we bring in sufficient, enough food and water and medicine and fuel to Gazans, because with every minute of delay, a child or a woman or an elderly is dying because they don't have access to these basic services. So after that, again, we have to look at the comprehensive picture. We have to make sure that we do not contribute to creating the same conditions in which this violence erupted. And I think we are all committed to working together on that. As we always say, the United States is leading the role. We need that role. Most of us will have to do our part as well. Everybody will have to do their part again to make sure that we bring security and peace to the Palestinians and the Palestinians.
شكرا. إياد تلفزيون المملكة.
Al-Mamlaka TV. Your Excellency, Mr. Blinken, why doesn't Washington exert pressure on Tel Aviv to cease the war and stop it and allow for delivery of humanitarian aid after all what happened?
expand that might happen, there are probably questions that have to be answered about how to make that work. Doing that, but again, that's the getting humanitarian assistance.
تامر الصمادي قناة الجزيرة.
Tamr Smadi from Al Jazeera channel. Tamr Smadi, Al Jazeera. My question to Mr. Blinken. After around 1 month of the Israeli war on Gaza, what are the results that Israel has achieved except killing around 10,000 civilians, most of them children and women? What are the results that Israel has achieved? And what is the number of victims exactly of civilians that would make the United States to stop and think and look at this open massacre and to ask Israel decisively to stop this bloodshed in the Gaza Strip?
Residential buildings, under schools and in schools, under hospitals and in hospitals, under mosques and in mosques. Monstrous. But, nonetheless, Israel has an obligation to abide by laws of war, humanitarian law, and to do everything possible to prevent civilian casualties. This is very much part of what we're saying to the Israeli government. What I said again yesterday. At the same time, providing humanitarian assistance to those in need, making sure that men, women, and children of Gaza are cared for. This is also the consequences of our actions, including the Israeli government.
Thank you. And part two is I just want to say that we continue to work together, bridge whatever gaps we have in our position, because the same thing. But again, I just want to say, imagine you're a Palestinian father, mother, you have to leave your home, you already miserable existence of anything that happened in Gaza. You take your kids to the south, you take shelter in a hospital, and you're looking at your eyes and the eyes of your children, and you know you cannot protect them. You know that you cannot find a place where you can escape the bomb. How do you explain to these that this is how do you explain to a father who we saw on CNN yesterday in the rubble looking for 4 children that are still buried in the rubble and you cannot find them? I think we need to remind each other of our humanity, and I think we need to accept that killing more people will not bring those who are most on both sides, as tragic as the loss is. I think we need to all emphasize that everything we can do to save one more life is imperative upon all of us. They want to go into characterization of what the international law says about that and the international law says about this. But I would say what we all, as a human being, you said, we all say, as human beings, we just cannot accept to see all that killing unfolding, to see all that reduction of life to a complete loss. How can we justify to anybody that killing 9,000 people, killing 3,000 children, destroying 150,000 houses, destroying hospitals? How can we justify that this was self-defense? I think let's get back to the basics. Let's step back and take a pause. And again, we all understand the pain, but this war is just going to produce more pain for Palestinians, for Israelis, and this is going to push us all again to the abyss of hatred and dehumanization that will make killing even more acceptable. So that needs to stop. That's our priority. It has to stop now. It has to end, and we should all work for a future when a Palestinian child sees an Israeli child, they see in each other a future friend, not a future enemy. I think that's what we need to do, and I look forward to working with all our communities here to create that reality and just once and for all end the need for war, end the need for violence, and end conditions in which only misery and an environment that enables extremism that produces the Nubian and Somatic also on the side of Israel that